It's like we have a
Okay, with that part. Okay, and that didn't work out. I don't know why it says my screen sharing is paused. Okay, let's try again.
It told us on this side that you were sharing it.
There we go. I don't know why. It's strange.
Very good.
Okay, so take it away. Thank you so much, Lisa, and thanks for everyone for joining.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me. All righty. So the name of my consulting business is Stop the Fighting and Biting, but it covers a lot of territory, much more than fighting and biting. I do have a book that I wrote about 10 years ago now called The Biting Solution. And for many years, I worked independently. I worked for a multidisciplinary agency. I've worked in California and New York. And I really focus on 0 to 5 and a lot of special focus then on 0 to 3. So when I say managing challenging behaviors using positive discipline, that means a broad assortment of things, but let me go ahead and define some terms. What do I mean by challenging behavior? Next. Thanks. So for me, challenging behavior falls into these kind of buckets: children that are pushing the limits that adults have set for them, what we call temper tantrums, transition meltdowns, various kinds of just non-compliance, children hurting other children, and general just demandingness. Now, a lot of this is absolutely age appropriate, and it's going to happen because of the age of the children that we're talking about. But it is challenging for caregivers and parents, and we can we can learn some strategies and techniques to help us help them. So next slide. I want to talk about, maybe I go ahead and just click ahead so we get everything on here. I should have checked the animation, make sure it was working more properly. All right, so types of limit setting for me fall into 3 main categories. One, over permissiveness, where children are where parents or caregivers are a bit too lenient. This is where you find people using responses like ignoring, pleading, deal making, too much redirection giving away too much control, caving in, some people will call it, avoiding disharmony, rescuing the child, essentially. And this kind of strategy that some people use will lead to more demandingness, and will, because children are masters at cause and effect, right? They have nothing better to do than study us. And they know if one thing works, do it again. Push that button, it will happen again. Another kind of limit setting that you see in the world is authoritarianism, which I consider that it's the too harsh type of reaction when children do something you consider wrong. This includes shaming, threatening, yelling, rough handling of a child, forcing an apology, punitive style timeouts, what I call a command and control style. And unfortunately, this breeds fear and resentment. Children can become manipulative. They might actually avoid breaking a limit to your face or in the open. And as children grow up, they become really savvy to how to work around a limit. And that's what I mean about being manipulative. Positive discipline is firm but warm, which Susan referred to that. And the firm but warm is how I encapsulate what I try to engender in my parenting style, in my teaching of parents. You want to aim for the middle, not over permissive, not authoritarian, but authoritative. This is where you're staying calm and consistent, even when children are mad at you, where we're treating children as our disciples in need of teaching. That's where the word discipline comes from. Where we're holding the hurtful child accountable while still teaching them social and emotional skills for the next time they feel this way. They get frustrated. They, feel like hurting someone. And also it means teaching all children not to grab toys from other children, because that really provokes a strong reaction that can be hurtful and a problem for everyone. It also means managing your own emotions. And now that's a tall order, managing your own emotions. And let me see if I can, okay. So we'll talk about that. That's the tricky part. So positive discipline is we're going to set realistic, clear limits and boundaries for our children. We're going to help them learn how to manage how they feel and what they want to do about that. But we also want to expect them to test the limits, because that's normal. They need to test the limits. They need to say, where does my power end and your power begin, and vice versa. What choices are mine to make? What choices are not mine to make? That's what they need to learn, that about limits. So our tone is, like I said, firm but warm. We want to help them learn how to follow the limits we set as our disciples. We want to use logical consequences as a teaching technique. More about that as we go along. And so, the bottom line is use kindness and patience, and realize that these little guys have not been on the planet for very long, so they have a lot to learn. Next. Why do children push limits? For a lot of reasons, many of them physical, right? This. It happens more when they're tired or overtired. Some children just stay up way too late at night and become overtired, and then they get amped up because they're overtired, which makes maybe no sense on the surface, but that's really what happens hormonally to children. Sometimes it's because they're hungry, they're thirsty, they're teething, they're starting to get sick, or they're recovering from being sick. Many emotional reasons why children want to push limits. They may feel overwhelmed with stimulation. Maybe they've been on one too many errand. Maybe they are the kind of kid that doesn't do well in a very active, sensory stimulating room. Even if it's a happy occasion, like a party, that can be a source of problems for some kids. The opposite, bored, too little stimulation. I've seen children act out because they're trying to create interest for themselves. They're in a place, a setting, there's boredom. And so stimulation will create some drama. Limit breaking will create drama and stimulation. Negative attention is better than no attention, so to speak. Another reason, some are just feeling frustrated, sad, ignored, worried, confused. One of the things I want to speak with you about is let's be on the lookout for being able to use these nuanced feelings words with children. We want them to have words at their disposal as they're learning to speak, as they're getting better and better at it, that actually capture how they feel. So then they will use that word because it feels like it's relating to the other person what's going on for them. And so if we're talking about toddlers and twos, of course, this is all very normal. They need to test the limits to establish their growing autonomy. So stage of development is a good place to start. You want to always ask yourself, are my expectations of this child behaving a certain way in line with their current developmental capabilities? For example, and that doesn't mean you're not going to still set limits for them. It just means that they it helps us to calibrate our expectations. For example, when you have a toddler, it's normal, as you know, for them to be egocentric, impulsive, impatient. 2-year-olds, 2-year-olds are undergoing what we call disequilibrium. They're moving from infancy into childhood. They have one foot in each world. They're kind of a mess in a way, emotionally, psychologically, because for 1 minute they want to be held and babied and cuddled. The next minute they want to be put down. I want to run away from you. I want to, be independent. And so they go back and forth. That's the disequilibrium that they're experiencing. They also may be in a position in your family life where they're managing a lot of changes during that year. They may be graduating in from a crib to a bed. They will be learning how to use the toilet. Maybe by now you're going to have a new baby in the home. Maybe they've moved to a new class, but maybe they have a new teacher. Maybe they're, traveling, or their parents are traveling. And so there's a lot they're adjusting to emotionally. 3s and 4s are very mature, in a way, much more mature right now socially. They're navigating some very new and exciting social situations. They know how to make friends. They know how to engage with other children, step into a play situation. Some are better at that than others. 3s and 4s also become very adept and confident at deal making with their parents, especially like little attorneys. They have figured out who cares about what at this stage. And sometimes the temperaments of either parent really plays into how they approach trying to test a limit with their parents. Next. Temperament also plays a role when we're talking about challenging behavior, how to deal with challenging behavior. And I'll tell you that just some children are born with traits that make them more challenging. And so the parents of those kinds of kids just need to become extra creative in terms of preventing problems, coming up with some management strategies that you may not have thought of before. It draws on your patience and your understanding in a bigger way, because these are some of the traits that make these kinds of children more challenging. There are certain children that are highly active. They're really rarely sitting still, don't like to be contained in any kind of device or car or stroller. They're highly intense, meaning they put a lot of energy behind their expression of emotion. So everything is very big and dramatic. They wear their emotions on their sleeve. They're highly persistent. These are children that might be called stubborn. I like to call them highly persistent, meaning if they're told no about something, that's not the end of it. They want to continue to push for seeing if they can make this happen. They don't like to be thwarted. They don't take that lying down. Some children have low adaptability to change. They get really upset with transitions, and we'll talk about transitions in a minute. And others have a high sensory awareness, so they're complaining about the way their shirt fits or the tag feels, or they don't like the sock, or there's something. Oh, that's the wrong kind of ketchup. I taste the difference. There are children that are just more that way, and so it puts you through your paces as a parent, as opposed to someone who has a child with the opposite of these traits, a bit more easygoing, more flexible in general. Next. So when we're talking about behavior, think about it in 2 categories. What are some things we can do to prevent behavior from being difficult, from limit setting, power struggles, that kind of thing? And then what can we do to intervene? So let's talk about prevention for a minute. You want to be aware of the physical resources and the developmental limits of your child. You want to limit your expectations, the number of errands, kind of say to yourself, am I asking my child to do more than I need to ask them to do right now? Also, you want to try to word your advice, your reminders in what to do fashion instead of what not to do. We touch people gently is a way of saying how to touch somebody rather than, don't hit. I mean, you're going to like talk to them about hitting, but right out the gate, I would say we touch people gently. That's what you want them to remember. We handle our toys carefully. We ask for a turn. What are the things, what's the outcome you want? That's what you want to really make the highlight of your suggestion, your advice, your intervention. And we want to set clear limits and give choices within those limits. Let me give you a couple of examples. And you know about this probably, that it's a good idea to give children two choices that you can live with. For example, Maya, I'm offering you a choice. You can clean up the blocks or the Play-Doh, your choice. Ian, you have a decision to make. You can walk to the bathroom by yourself, or you can get walking help from me. What's your choice? Teddy, I know you want a cookie for a snack, but right now, here are your options. Celery with peanut butter or celery with cream cheese. Which one do you pick? Or do you pick nothing? Those are some choices. Marvin, you can walk out of the playground on your own feet, or I can carry you. Which do you choose? So those are some choices that you bring into motion when there's a bit of a pushback that you expect from the child. Plan ahead. Everybody thinks of, what do we need to stick in the purse or the diaper bag or the backpack to entertain a waiting child if it's taking a long time at the bank, taking a long time at the doctor's, taking a long time, in the car. And you want to also be proactive in dealing with issues that are going to cause irritability and crankiness. One of the biggest ones I see is lack of proper sleep at night. Lots of kids, just don't get the full complement of sleep that they need. They go to bed rather late. And so they wake up and it's easier for them to feel irritable and cranky in the late morning when they're like running out of juice. Hunger, thirst, even there are studies that show a lot of behavior problems at school happens because of children getting hungry, not getting enough water during the day, and just general irritability takes over, and they have less patience for social problems that come their way. And teething, of course, is another one. Next. So let's talk about temper tantrums, because these happen to everybody. They happen for the first few years of life. When you ask them to do something and they say no, when they ask you to do something and you say no, they might fall apart physically. They might throw themselves on the ground. They might throw things around. They just physically show their displeasure. So you want to stay calm and nearby. You want to maybe move that child to a safe place if she might be hurting someone in the process of showing how she feels. You don't want to try to reason with her or talk her out of it, because her brain is not capable of doing both of these things at the same time. She's in that emotional space. She's not, the brain is not in the place where she's going to reason with you. You can't, it would be nice if we could, but that doesn't work. Next. So even though we'd like to be able to just say something while they're upset to stem that tide of emotion and to like put a lid on it, I think we have to just realize that the feelings are the feelings. They're expressing how they feel. They can be taught how to do this in a different, more sophisticated way, but right now, this is what's happening. And so you want to start off with an I message, as in, I know you're really mad about this, or I know you're frustrated. I know how disappointing it is when your blocks fall, or you rather, pushes you, or upset. Those are the words that you want to like recognize. You want to let her fuss and cry until she begins to calm down, because these feelings are authentic. And as I said, she can't listen to or reason right now. If she hurts you during this temper tantrum, I recommend saying, I won't let you hurt me. Again, starting with I message, starting from your point of view, I won't let you hurt me, move apart from her. The trick is display that firm but warm demeanor. You can suggest a way for a child to calm herself. And I've listed some ways here, and you can actually teach these prior to a temper tantrum, and it's much better. They will learn some calming techniques when they're not in the middle of a temper tantrum. But you might remind her of this as you see her starting to calm down, or starting to like look at you as if she's able to pay attention.
你想看那天我们看
One
着
way is to breathe in and out through her teeth like this. That takes some energy. What the point you want to make is like, get that energy out so that you can feel calmer again. I've taught children how to blow a big breath out by holding up my finger and saying, this is a birthday candle. Can you blow it out for me? And you teach a child how to take a big breath by saying that. And if they don't blow hard enough, nope, try again, it's not out. Hugging her arms tight across her chest. That can be something that you can like learn how to do when you're alone, when there's no adult to help you, just to like hold yourself in from really acting out, hurting someone. Squeezing that energy is useful. And there might be a lovey or a stuffed animal that you can hand to a child who's really upset at home and help them calm themselves. So you remind them of the limit, you reconnect, you hug and you hold, you move on, you put closure on it. So what I mean by closure is, once you've reconnected, you've said, I know you are so upset, but I couldn't let you hit me. Next time you feel that way, here's what you can do instead. I'm glad you feel better now. Give me a hug. Let's go find something to do. Let's go get some lunch. Let's go see what's happening in the other room. You're done. You don't sort of litigate this forever. You don't keep a scorecard. It's over. You're together again. That's important for them to know, because they're going to have these little moments of tantrums quite often. Transitions can cause preschool children to have tantrums, especially if they're, as I had mentioned, non-adaptable. So leaving the house, leaving the park, playground, party, friend's house, store, school, those are all transitions. Ending their play within the home to go take a bath, come eat dinner, get ready for bed, clean up your toys, get your socks on, getting dressed or undressed. All of those are just transitions that can sometimes drive kids crazy. Go on, next slide. So what can we do to make transitions easier? I'm sure you know about forewarning. Warn the child about upcoming changes 5 or 10 minutes ahead. Sometimes it's a good idea to give them 2 forewarnings, one 10 minutes ahead of time and the other 5 minutes. This is when you're saying to the child, you check your watch, or you check your phone, you check your clock hanging on the wall, and you say, whoops, and you say, you know what? Looks like the clock is telling us you have 10 more minutes to play. before bath time. And so you blame it on the clock. You blame it on, this is the time of the day is clicking along here. I just noticed this playtime is coming to an end. Here's a little warning. You know, how do you want to finish this up? You know, and then 5 minutes comes, you're available to help them clean up. You're available to help them move to the next part of the day. Some people use a timer. Some people use a sand timer that you can get from Lakeshore Toys on the internet. And it's a large sand timer. They come in 5-minute and 10-minute increments. I like those a lot for preschoolers and toddlers because it's very visual. You can say, oh, the sand is almost done. Now it's done. Time to do the blank next thing. Children are going to complain about any changes. Don't take it too seriously. Just have your confident momentum going and say, yep, I know it's disappointing. We can't keep playing with this. Let's see, what should we put in the bath today for playing with there? And just move them into the next activity. Acknowledge his feeling of disappointment, but maintain your limit. Help him move through it. Talk about what's next. Stay calm. I would say try singing. Singing to me is almost like magic. Some people feel funny about singing. You can make anything a song. You can create a little, you know, nursery rhyme type of melody and apply it to getting on your coat now, coat now, coat now, getting on your coat now, one arm first. You know, that's what I mean about making up songs along with any kind of tune or nursery rhyme tune that you think of. Parents that discover this really like it. Next slide. Let's talk for a minute about hurting other people, whether it's a friend or a sibling or yourself. Here's what I think is the best approach. Essentially, again, starting with the I message, what you're going to do is separate them from the person they hurt, because that's logical. When you say, I won't let you be near people when you hurt them, you are using logical consequences. You are moving the child apart from the other child, even if it's just 3 feet away, 4 feet away. It doesn't have to be banished, you know, to your bedroom. It can just be, I can't let you near people when you hurt them. The child will be upset, of course. When they are calmer, now you talk to them about what they felt. You tell them the word for it. I know that was upsetting for you. You were frustrated because of blah, blah, blah. And you talk about the other child's feelings. But you have to also remember, and this is sort of key, for any child that is under the age of 3, sometimes even 4, but definitely under 3, they don't have empathy for how another child feels. They have compassion, they have sympathy, they recognize what other children feel. They'll bring you a Kleenex if you're crying, they'll bring you your teddy bear if you're sad, but they cannot put themselves in that child's shoes and really understand why that child is feeling that way. So when we say, how would you like to, you know, how would you like it if he did that to you? Or that's not very nice, look what you made. You know, it's very academic for them, and children at a young age are very concrete and egocentric. So you can model an understanding of what other children feel. I'm just saying, be careful what you expect from a young child in terms of their understanding. It's nice to say, like, you know, you know, Violet got hurt when you pushed her down. I'm sorry, Violet, that happened to you. It's hard to feel so hurt. You're modeling compassion. You're modeling sorrow. If you tell a child, tell him you're sorry, I don't believe in that, because I believe that's inauthentic. I believe in modeling sorrow, or saying to a child, you know, Violet's worried you're going to push her down. Are you all done pushing her? That's concrete and it can be accurate. So if I'm all done pushing you, I can say, yeah, or maybe I don't say anything, but if I say sorry, to me as the young child, I now understand that that's the key out of trouble. Anything that happens, you get in trouble, you just say, sorry, and it's over. That's the end of learning. You don't want it to be the end of learning. You want to suggest an alternative way for the child to get what they needed without hurting someone. And so you talk about next time you feel this way, tell him this, do this. You give examples.
Lisa,
And then, yes.
I was just going to say, if you don't mind me inserting this, one of the things that we have, one of the techniques that we use sometimes is there a way that you can, is there something you think you can do to make amends? You know, maybe teach what that would be, some of the alternatives, but give them the opportunity to think of something that might make them feel better, whether it's an ice pack or something, a drawing.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I mean, again, it's this age of the child too. You know, if it's too young of a child, and you say, here, bring some ice over to the person to put on their bite, the victim might not want that. The victim and the aggressor might say, oh, that's the solution right there. Here you go, ice, ice. So you just have to be careful that they don't interpret that as, I can get away with anything as long as there's an action that everybody's happy with me about. The main thing I like for people to insert is, next time you feel this way, what can you do? And I think it's on the next slide. Yeah. So for young toddlers, you want to teach them how to use short phrases. And you want them, instead of acting out and pushing someone or biting someone or hurting someone or throwing something, you want them to pull a word out of their little brain. And maybe it's a strong word like move or stop or don't or go. Sometimes children are upset with each other because they feel hemmed in. They feel people are too close to me. Well, learn to say, be careful or move over. What was the root of their upsetness? That's what you're sort of in your head, you're trying to think about. Even with siblings, you can do this at home so easily. And then for older toddlers and two, they can do more than a one-word sentence. You say, next time that happens, try this. Say, I want that. I need the next turn. Or when will you be done? Or do you want to trade that for this? I've seen this work with 18-month-olds. They don't even know how to talk. You teach them how to make a trade, and they hold it out. And sometimes the child holding what you want trades you. So you're trying to teach them alternatives to the impulse to hurt someone. That's the point of this. Next. Okay, and then you put closure on it. You express positive expectations for the future, and just continue to use these tools, even at non-conflict times. You can even model this at home, for example. If you want to have a little teachable moment, you're sitting on the couch next to your spouse and your child is in the room, in the vicinity of what you're doing, where you're sitting, you might say to your spouse, you're too close. Move over, please. And you're doing a little acting job, but you're showing your child that there's no need to it's not the end of the world if someone's crowding you. There are things you can say to get them to move. I feel like adults are so good at maneuvering socially that a lot of how we do things is very hidden. It's very invisible to young children. And so the more you can be demonstrative, teach turn taking, for example, is on this list of positive discipline. You can teach turn taking at home using a hairbrush, using a spoon at the dinner table. You can say to the other spouse, the other person, I need a turn with that brush. And the person holding the brush can say like, well, I'm holding it right now, so it's my turn, isn't it? I'll give it to you when I put it down, my turn will be over. And that's how you teach turn taking. If it's down, it's open for someone else to take the turn. If it's being used, it's not available. So you can help children, and there's a whole handout I can send Susan about this, of how you can teach that at home. That's half the battle right there, just having children understand the dynamics between turn taking. And it's not that we want them to quote share, we want them to learn how to take turns with items. And so there's no property disputes. Flexible thinking has to do with when we say to children, you know, we're saying like, yeah, I know you want raisins right now, but it's too close to dinner. So raisins is not a good idea. Do you have another idea? What's your second idea? And, you know, carrot sticks. Maybe you feel like carrot sticks is not sugary like raisins, so that's an okay idea for you. Teaching children that they have a second idea is mind-blowing to them. So that's called flexible thinking. Getting good at using iMessages. House rules are things like when you say, in this house, we touch people gently. In this house, we wait for a turn. In this house, we handle our toys, we don't throw them. In this house, we don't hurt people's feelings with our words. What are your 3 or 4 house rules? Because then if you reference those when you're having to remind people of a boundary they've crossed, a limit they've pushed, it doesn't come across as feeling so random, like you're just out to get them. We're all living by the house rules. That's a good sort of way to think about that. And the end here, and then I'm going to open up for Q&A. I'm going to say, don't say okay if you're not giving children a choice. If you can learn this technique, you are going to change your life, because most people in America, probably throughout the world, actually, they really don't want to dive into a power struggle with a child. And so when you say things like, all right, get into your stroller, okay? You've given them a choice. You're actually asking their opinion if they want to do it or not. That's how literal a preschooler is. So we say okay because we want to see if they're listening to us. We want to see if they're willing to do what we ask. And some of the time they're just not going for it. So if you can train yourself to drop that okay, if you're not actually giving them a choice, your limit setting will be more clear and firm and warm, and compliance will be more in the cards for you, because it won't look like there's even an opening for a change. When you say, all right, 5 minutes until bath time, you've given forewarning. Now, 5 minutes is up. All right, here we go. Let's see, what kind of washcloth do you want to put in the bath today? The red one or the yellow one? I wonder what you're going to say. Let's go up and you can surprise me. Here we go. You're just moving forward. That's that confident momentum. You don't need to say, okay, like, are you coming with me? Sometimes if you really don't know if they've heard you, that's what you say. Come on up to the table. Did you hear me? Should I say it again? Come on up to the table. That's checking if they heard you without having to say okay and giving them an out. So that's my monologue about okay. All right, I think, are we at, yes, discussion. So we've got a good 15-20 minutes. Let's go ahead and open up. I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear, there's some people in the chat that put some things in there. Let me see, should we start with the chat?